Shri Ajay Bhatt, Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, ADC, the Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral S.N. Ghormade, PVSM, AVSM, NM, ADC, the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, Shri S.P. Shukla, President SIDM, Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta, Director General of Naval Armament Inspection, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. I, Captain Harpreet Singh, welcome you all to the Indian Navy's seminar on Atmanirbharta in Aero Armament Sustenance. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a brief video that we would like to share with the audience towards understanding and appreciation of the seminar's topic.
The geopolitical environment that developed in the early 1990s presented Indian Navy with the opportunity to foray into long-term sustenance of its armaments utilizing internal capabilities. The knowledge and experience gained over a period of 3 decades aided the Navy to advance from a modest beginning to comprehensively plan and carry out long-term sustenance of armaments through life extension and refurbishment.
भारत अपनी सेनाओं को निरंतर आधुनिक बना रहा है, आत्मनिर्भर बना रहा है। हमारी सेनाओं ने ऐसे उपकरणों की एक लंबी लिस्ट भी बनाई है जिनकी खरीद अब स्वदेशी कंपनियों से ही की जाए।
The Government of India's clarion call on Atmanirbharta has been responded well by both the armed forces and the industry. For 360-degree Atmanirbharta, self-reliance in the long-term sustenance of existing weaponry supplied by foreign OEM is as important as design and development of new weapons. The Indian defense industry over the years has taken giant strides to enhance its capacity and capability. In order to further harness the industry's potential, Government of India in 2022 has revised its policy on life extension and refurbishment of missiles, making inroads for the industry in this niche domain. Indian Navy has been a pioneer in sustenance of its missile inventory through in-house expertise in association with DRDO, ordnance factories and industry. Over the years, it has developed best-in-class test facilities for explosive testing, radiography, non-explosive testing, calibration, and rocket motor static firing. The Navy's efforts have not only ensured operational availability of armaments, but has also resulted in huge savings to the exchequer. This expertise has also been extended to sister services.
वह दिन जल्द आएगा जब देश की रक्षा जरूरतों का 90% सामान मेड इन इंडिया होगा.
The Indian Navy is deeply committed to enhance its relationship with Indian industries for achieving the mission of Atmanirbharta for all its armaments.
I'm sure the audience is now Thank you. I'm sure the audience is now familiar with the broader framework of our seminar. To commence the proceedings, may I now request Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta, Director General of Naval Armament Inspection, to kindly deliver the welcome address. Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta.
Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri, Shri Ajay Bhatt, the Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral S.N. Ghormade, President SIDM, Shri S.P. Shukla, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I have great pleasure in extending a warm and healthy welcome to each and every one of you to this seminar on Atmanirbharta in Aero Armament Sustenance. At the outset, I would like to start by saying that the Indian Navy has always been at the forefront of indigenization, which has not only led to our transition from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy, but has also transformed us as a seller's navy. The very fact that the Make in India initiative has not only been about making defense products for India, but to export world-class arms and ammunition. Over the years, India has been one of the largest arms importers of the world. However, in the last 5 years, the defense exports have increased 8 times. India is exporting defense equipment to more than 75 countries, and equipments worth a record 13,000 crores have been exported in the year 21-22. This has been possible due to the government's proactive approach in quickly nurturing and establishing a defense manufacturing ecosystem in the nation. One recent and important step in this direction is a policy issued by MOD DDP in August 2022 on life extension and refurbishment of missiles for the 3 services with greater partnership by the private industry. This seminar has been tailored towards having fruitful discussions by relevant stakeholders for creation of an ecosystem for domestic industry to sustain the various types of missile systems. The need of the hour is not only to utilize the opportunities available in the defense ecosystem, but also to understand the needs and concerns of the industry. Today, for our seminar, we have amongst us eminent panelists from the DPSU, DRDO, industry, services, and a member from think tank to discuss achieving Atmanirbharta in Aero Armament Sustenance. Panel discussions with our esteemed panelists have been planned on the topic to deliberate government's initiatives and way ahead for the industry partners. I am confident that the seminar will yield useful outcomes by facilitating greater understanding of the requirements. Once again, welcome on board, and we look forward for fruitful discussions by our panelists. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for welcoming the August gathering. The construct of this seminar is about the policy on opening doors to the private sector in the niche field of sustaining missiles through life extension and refurbishment. Therefore, Indian defense industry has a big role to play. I will now turn the floor over to Shri S.P. Shukla, President SIDM, to deliver the opening remarks from the industry standpoint. Shri S.P. Shukla.
Good morning. Honorable Raksha Raj Mantri, Shri Ajay Bhatt, the Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Hari Kumar, VCNS, Vice Admiral Godmade, Director General Naval Armament, Rear Admiral Vashisht, all other dignitaries and officers present. I'm honored to be here to speak on a subject of national importance. I'm myself an engineer of 70s from IIT, and one of those very few from that era who chose to stay in the country and not go overseas. I think there are not more than 100 people out of 1,200 who graduated in my class who are in India today. Last few years have seen the realization of the dream that the best students of our technological institutions will stay in the country and contribute for its progress. Let me start by saying that Aero India 2023 is happening during the Amrit Kal of our nation. Our defense forces are becoming more modern, adapting itself to the new challenges being posed both by new technologies as well as emerging new geopolitics in the world. At the same time, self-reliant, robust ecosystem needs to be in place so that we can meet those challenges successfully. I must say, and this is something we in industry recognize, that Indian Navy has been in the forefront of self-reliance ahead of other wings. As early as 60s, we were already working on indigenous equipment, first frigate was commissioned in 1968, but now the pace of Atmanirbharta has picked up across the sectors, and this seminar is a wonderful example of new goals being set by Indian Navy at all times. Today we can proudly claim that Make in India for aerospace and defense equipment is a growing reality. It is not a wish, it is a reality today. Not only Indian industry is on the mission to have self-reliance, but also serve the needs of friendly nations. As mentioned earlier, exports have grown 7 to 8 times in last few years. Our defense attaches all over the world are doing a good job. But let's come back to the real subject of today. We are talking about specifically the Aero Armament and sustenance of it in the context of Navy. That is the topic today. All wings of Indian Defense Forces today have wide range of armament inventory which has been procured and accumulated over decades. Certain portion of it is of vintage variety where it is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Now this word maintain sounds very simple, but it is not. All the esteemed officers today know it much better than me that it is not a simple maintenance which is understood in the context of engineering. When we talk of armament, we are talking about its safety, its serviceability, and reliability when you need it most. That is why sustenance is really the right word. It is not at all simple because most of it was imported, and that too from different countries spread over many years. How do we keep it in a serviceable condition when we do not have all the time fullest support available from the OEMs who supplied it 20 years ago? It is really a challenge. And this is where we believe that private sector can play a very important role. I'll just deviate a little. In connection with radars, I was in Czech Republic a few weeks ago, and that is where I had opportunity to also go across to Poland, Bulgaria. Idea was to meet different sections of the industry to understand in the erstwhile old Soviet Union, there were linkages across the nations, like we have different states in India. And there will be technological capabilities available in different countries. You don't have to necessarily go to the original OEM from where the supply came. I discovered many gems whom we could deploy in the service of our nation, in the service of our defense forces. There are many such things which can be done across the sectors of our armament portfolio. And this is where I'm counting upon that Indian industry will rise to the challenge so that we can meet the expectations which have been rightly built up over last few years to build up the Atmanirbharta. Till a few years ago, the armament industry was mostly restricted to government-owned companies. They served a very useful purpose in the times we had after independence. A credit must be given to every part of the society which has fulfilled its role at a point in time. But now, as we have built capabilities in the private sector, you find that the speed of response, the flexibility of working, as well as ability to build tie-ups across the globe, perhaps private sector will be able to play a more efficient role. Now, how do we involve private sector in serving the needs of our defense forces? That becomes a specific item. Procurement processes have been simplified, streamlined, and they have begun to show results. But we are talking here a subject which is different from procurement. We are talking a subject, sir, which is actually prolonging the lives of products which we already have. This is a new emerging area. OEMs specify a certain life of any product they sell. After that, they may give limited support, but mostly the support starts diminishing over a period of time. Now, we are not a use and discard country. We cannot simply discard expensive equipment procured over a period of time. We would like to prolong this life, but it should be through maintaining standards of safety, serviceability, and reliability. This is where I would mention some of the things which need to be kept in mind for only one reason. This is not strictly procurement, this is sustenance. And therefore, we might need to take into account the special circumstances under which this process will need to be carried out. Number one, servicing these requirements will entail sophisticated infrastructure to be built by any company or a vendor, especially when technology and capability has been rapidly changing over the years. It might have to be a dedicated infrastructure only for that particular item. Second, sophistication also means increasing complexities to handle the armaments that will demand the resources to be extremely skilled. They will be dedicated, skilled resources. Some of them we might have to take abroad to train them so that they are able to handle things back in India. Thirdly, the explosives and armament electronics, they are both extremely sensitive. I don't have to say this, everybody here knows better than me. These sensitive parts of the armament demands very high level of core skills in handling. And also it requires frequent replacement because of the lower shelf life. Technology is evolving so fast that the sensors we bought 5 years ago, you don't get today. You might have to replace those sensors, talking of specific electronics. Equally important is ability to dispose of what is not needed. Safe disposal is becoming an increasing requirement due to environmental concerns. All of these things come at considerable cost, and a company in private sector will be willing to invest, provided we can show a relatively longer-term direction. It cannot be on a short-term basis that this particular item we need to get something done. Then responses will not be as wide as will be that we say that this is the portfolio, please build an infrastructure to handle this. It will be a participative role between Indian Navy and the private sector. It is not, now we have handed over, get it done and come back. Because most of it belongs to past years. And therefore, only through interactive it will happen, which Indian Navy is known for. Indian Navy is known among the various wings of defense forces for holding the hand of private sector and making sure that things happen. We should also not forget very high insurance component. That is a cost which is often not realized. Government companies can perhaps keep insurance minimum, but when it comes to private sector, the corporate governance requires that suitable insurance is taken, especially in the case of armaments and explosives, and those costs can be quite high. That has to be factored in when we look at this cost. These were the issues I pointed out, not to say that it cannot be done. I am saying once you identify the challenge, then you have strategy to tackle the challenge. If you want to climb a mountain, you should know how high it is. You should know what are the minimum temperatures on top of the mountain, what will be the level of oxygen. So in this listing of these challenges is to prepare for them so that we succeed. Idea is that we rise to the challenge and serve the requirements. So in short, we are looking at a great possibility of prolonging the life of this armament from the perspective of Indian Navy. And at the same time, it is a great opportunity for private sector companies to learn this particular aspect. And when you do servicing, you learn, one day you make them. This is how things work. On behalf of SIDM, I would like to only say this, that all members look forward to working closely with Indian Navy and other stakeholders. Perhaps we will need government support to approach foreign OEMs, which can all be done diplomatically. We are confident that we will rise to the occasion to serve the nation in this particular case through Indian Navy. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your opening remarks. Your views offer much assurance to us in the Indian Armed Forces that Indian industry is ready to take on any requirement that is needed by the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. The Indian Navy is one of the most powerful navies in the world, with a strong emphasis on blue water capabilities and a growing fleet of advanced ships, submarines, and aircrafts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to call upon Admiral R. Hari Kumar, the Chief of the Naval Staff, to deliver the keynote address. Admiral R. Hari Kumar, the Chief of the Naval Staff.
Shri Ajay Bhatt ji, Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri, Vice Admiral S.N. Gormade, Vice Chief of Naval Staff, Shri S.P. Shukla, President, Society of Indian Defence Manufacturers, SIDM, Rear Admiral Brajesh Vashisht, DGNAI, Flag Officers, Chief of Staff, West Naval Command, officers, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. We are truly privileged that the Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri was able to take time out from his busy schedule to grace this seminar. It's also a matter of great pleasure to welcome all of you here to this seminar organized by the Indian Navy in collaboration with the Department of Defense Production. And my compliments to the Director General Naval Armament Inspectorate and his team for conceptualizing and conducting this event. I would like to thank the DDP and the organizers of Aero India 2023 for supporting the seminar and providing us this platform for conducting this intellectual exercise that has immediate relevance not only to national security but also to nation building. And talking of national security, the contemporary security canvas is characterized by increasing uncertainty, complexity, disruption of the supply chain and ambiguity among the nations, leading to a world of Burma crisis, I would say. Emanating from such an environment is the complex web of security challenges that straddle multiple domains that are being played out at different levels and also simultaneously, that transcend the contours of competition, contestation, and conflict, and while defining the traditional definitions of public and private, civil and military, as well as physical and virtual. So in overcoming these challenges, among the instruments of national power, a well-equipped, technologically enabled and efficiently supported modern military will always remain critical. In fact, about 5-6 years back, there was a general feeling that wars are some things of the past. But even Francis Fukuyama had talked of the end of history. But all that has been completely set aside, and now we see more crisis-prone world, which is quite uncertain and difficult to predict. So at the same time, the supply chain shocks, which resulted from the COVID pandemic and the ongoing conflict in Europe, have revealed that dependency on others for our defense and security requirements is a strategic vulnerability that must be overcome. And in this regard, achieving self-reliance or Atmanirbharta is no longer just an economic imperative, but it's a strategic necessity. And Indian Navy has made an unequivocal commitment and steadfast resolve, a promise made to the political leadership that we will be a fully Atmanirbhar force by 2047. And we are striving towards that. And amongst other initiatives, the Indian Navy's quest for self-reliance and indigenization in shipbuilding. This has resulted in a thriving and highly matured industry, which has the capacity and the capability to construct complex and advanced platforms ranging from aircraft carriers, stealth destroyers, to submarines, and specialized diving support vessels, multi-capability vessels, and so on. Our transition, therefore, from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy has helped us not only in supporting and promoting the Indian defense industry, but also spurred economic growth and stimulated industrial skilling. And the same has been acknowledged in the Economic Survey 2022-2023 presented in the Parliament on the 31st of January 2023. For instance, one of the things that was highlighted in this Economic Survey report was India's indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, which alone has engaged about 500 MSMEs and created employment for nearly 12,000 people in various sectors, from the ancillary industries, MSMEs, and so on, and in addition to the 2,000 odd employees of the shipyard, Cochin shipyard. So while we are justifiably proud of all these achievements, to be a truly capable maritime power, we need to strive for complete self-reliance across the three important components, that is the float, to move, and to fight. We have already achieved significant milestones in both the float and the move components, and we are now focusing our efforts on leveraging the fight component, which is why we are here to discuss this key aspect of naval armament. And in this context, the defense manufacturing ecosystem in India plays a pivotal role, and we have already seen numerous success stories which provide telltale signs of Atmanirbharta in the missile and armament sector. Our indigenous supersonic cruise missile, BrahMos, is now being exported to friends and partner countries. Similarly, the collaborative efforts by DGNAI and our industry partners have resulted in successful indigenization of nearly 90% of the conventional armament stores, such as gun ammunition, mines, anti-submarine rockets, their launchers, and many other items, torpedo tubes, and so on. So these milestones clearly indicate the growing experience and expertise that is resident in the defense industry today. And towards harnessing the promising potential, the Indian Navy has now established a three-tier organization under the Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization, or the NIIO, to further synchronize and stimulate our collaboration with the industry. And in this endeavor, we are also supported by and enabled by various government agencies and initiatives such as the Defense India Startup Challenge, or the DISC, the IDEX, and policies like the DDP policy on facilitating greater partnership with private industries towards life extension and refurbishment of missiles, and so on. So today, the Government of India has a clear vision. The Ministry of Defense has clear policies and plans. The armed forces have a clear roadmap, and the defense industries have a very clear incentive to make India self-reliant in the defense, and particularly, as we are discussing here, in the armament sector as well. And as far as the Navy is concerned, in the fight component. So in that regard, I believe there is an abundant opportunity for us to work collaboratively and strengthen the ongoing team effort. And in pursuit of this endeavor, the Indian Navy has organized today's seminar to bring key stakeholders to a common platform so that we can share our requirements and listen to your ideas as well, how to collaborate, how to take it forward, what are the challenges and what are the inputs that you have to give us, and how we can work with you to make it happen. So I'm confident that today's seminar will prove to be a valuable exercise as a stepping stone towards further deliberations and engagements in pursuit of a collective vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. So before I conclude, I wish all participants and attendees of the seminar the very best for insightful and meaningful discussion. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for the keynote address. As brought out by the Chief of the Naval Staff, Indian Navy's quest for self-reliance and indigenization in shipbuilding has created a thriving industry in this sector. This would not have been possible without consistent support from the government. Timely directives and policies put in place together have helped the Indian Navy in achieving this endeavor. The Department of Defense Production formulates policy to build a strong domestic defense industrial base and strengthen Indian companies' capacity in design, development, and production of armaments and related systems. We are indeed very privileged to have amongst us Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri Shri Ajay Bhatt ji with us today as chief guest of the seminar. May I please request the Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri ji to deliver the seminar's inaugural address. Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri.
भारत माता की जय। एडमिरल हरि कुमार जी, चीफ ऑफ नेवल स्टाफ, हमारे वाइस चीफ ऑफ नेवी घोरमांडे जी और श्री प्रकाश शुक्ला जी, SIDM के चेयरमैन की हैसियत से आज आप यहाँ आए हैं। कई बार आपसे कई फोरम पर मिलना भी हुआ है, बहुत विद्वान हैं। और हमारे ब्रजेश वशिष्ठ जी, DG NAI, और सारे उद्योग जगत के मित्रगण, हमारे सभी अधिकारीगण, विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में अन्य जो काम करने वाले लोग हैं जो यहाँ उपस्थित हुए हैं, सभी का मैं इतने सुंदर आयोजन में अपनी तरफ से, अपने विभाग की तरफ से स्वागत करता हूँ
अपने पत्रकार मित्र भी यहाँ काफ़ी लोग आए हैं, उनका भी स्वागत है। मित्रों, ये जो आज हम यहाँ पर संगोष्ठी कर रहे हैं, कुछ ऐसी प्रमुख योजनाएं हैं सरकार की जो सबको मिला देती हैं। अभी आने वाले सत्रों में मेरे अंदाज से सत्र भी इसमें होंगे, आगे को सेशन होंगे, तो उसमें तरह तरह की बातें आएंगी, आपके उद्गार आएंगे, आपके विचार आएंगे। हमारा जो स्टार्टअप है, आत्मनिर्भर भारत के आधार बिंदु हैं, कैसे हम यहाँ तक पहुँचे और अचानक ये क्या हो गया कि हम विश्व में बहुत ऊंचाई पर पहुँच गए। होता तो सब कुछ है आदमी के पास, लगन चाहिए, नियम भी हैं, कानून भी हैं, करना है, ये भी हमारे पास थॉट होता है, लेकिन वही जाता है आगे जो कर्मठ होता है। आपने देखा कि एक व्यक्ति के पास सब कुछ होता है, भरा पूरा घर होता है, बहुत अच्छा उद्योग भी चल रहा होता है, कभी बीच में ऐसा आ जाता है कि उसे प्राउड कहें या फिर अतिरेक आत्मविश्वास कहें, तो घर बन रहा होता है, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ठीक चल रहा होता है, कुछ लोग ऐसे हो जाते हैं कि कोई दूसरी तरफ को चले जाता है, कोई तीसरी तरफ को चले जाता है। आपने राजाओं महाराजाओं को नाच गाने में, खाने पीने में सुना होगा कि धीरे 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 वो नेपथ्य की ओर चले गए। लेकिन कभी आपने ये भी सुना होगा कि अत्यधिक संघर्ष करते करते जो मीडियम लोग थे, या कई बार ये बात भी आती है जो हैंड टू माउथ थे कभी, या फिर उनको बना दिया गया, वो कभी बहुत अच्छी ऊंचाई पर थे, लेकिन जब संघर्ष करते हैं, आगे बढ़ते हैं, तो उनका कोई सानी नहीं होता है। धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ के कोई उनका बराबरी नहीं कर सकता है, इसका इतिहास है। पढ़ाई लिखाई में भी आपने देखा होगा, कभी कभी ऐसा बच्चा निकल आता है कि जिसकी कल्पना भी नहीं की जा सकती है। मैंने अभी देखा नैनीताल जिले के हल्द्वानी नामक स्थान में एक हिमांशु पांडे ने सीडीएस टॉप किया है। पिताजी बहुत गरीब हैं, रिक्शा चलाते हैं, और सीडीएस टॉप कर दिया। लगन थी, माता पिता पढ़े लिखे नहीं थे, लेकिन ऐसी लगन थी, बढ़ गए आगे। आपने सुना होगा कि कोई रिक्शा चलाने वाले के बेटे पहले आईएएस निकले, आज वो कमिश्नर हैं उत्तर प्रदेश में कहीं पर। लगन थी। तो हमारे यहाँ भी जिस तरह से एक बार हम सोने की चिड़िया थे, होते 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 जिन्होंने हमको कमज़ोर किया, वो काफ़ी आगे बढ़ गए, और उसके बाद पॉलिटिकली क्या हुआ, कैसा हुआ, जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, लेकिन हम बहुत हेय दृष्टि से देखे जाते थे। वो समय आ गया था जबकि एक समय हम बहुत ही सर्वोत्तम स्थान पर थे। और आते 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 आज मैंने कल 14 देशों के रक्षा मंत्रियों के साथ इंटरेक्शन किया। माननीय आर्यन साहब को भी मौका मिला, उन्होंने कुछ और देश लिए होंगे, कहीं माननीय एडमिरल साहब ने लिए होंगे, कहीं सीडीएस साहब ने, नेवल चीफ हमारे जो बैठे हैं, और साथ में हमारे पांडे साहब एयरफोर्स चीफ जो हैं उन्होंने भी लिए होंगे, यानी पांडे जी मतलब थल सेना अध्यक्ष, एक्सपीरियंस आए होंगे। लेकिन मैं ताजुब कर गया, जितने देश थे वो इतनी भूरी भूरी प्रशंसा कर रहे थे कि उनका मैं हिंदी में बता रहा हूँ कि साहब बहुत ऊंचाई पर आप लोग हैं, हमको मतलब दीनहीन भावना में हमको भी आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए। कोई कह रहा था कि आपके वहाँ हमारे जवानों को, हमारे अधिकारियों को आप ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, कितने आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, हम बहुत ही थैंकफुल हैं, हमको ये चीज़ की ज़रूरत है। कुछ लोगों ने कहा हमें हॉस्पिटल चाहिए, आपका आरआर हॉस्पिटल बहुत अच्छा है, आपका पूना में जो हॉस्पिटल चलते वो अच्छे हैं, हमारे एक आध डॉक्टर भी निकले, हमको ये चाहिए, हमको फलानी चीज़ चाहिए, हम फलानी चीज़ हमको ये चाहिए, हमारे वहाँ आप इसको खोलिए, जैसे हम कह रहे हैं हमारे यहाँ खोलिए। तो मैं ताजुब कर गया कि आज हमारे देश की ऊंचाई बहुत ऊंचाई पर पहुंच गई है, इतनी प्रतिष्ठा हमारी बन गई है, क्योंकि जो यहाँ बैठे हैं उद्योग जगत के लोग और अन्य अधिकारीगण, हमारे सारे लोग यहाँ से काम कर रहे हैं, इसके अंदर से, और सबको लगा है कि कुछ तो करना ही है, कुछ तो करना ही है, क्योंकि तू लाख कमा ले हीरा मोती, याद रखना कफन पर जेब नहीं होती, एक दिन तो जाना ही जाना है। बड़े बड़े चले गए, महात्मा गांधी जी गए, जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी गए, इंदिरा जी गए, अटल जी गए, जितने प्रधानमंत्री हुए वो गए, राष्ट्रपतियों की श्रृंखला देखिए वो गए, अपने अपने ज़माने में सब एक से एक विद्वान थे, ज्ञानवान थे और दिव्यवान थे, हर तरह से सक्षम थे, लेकिन जाता है और याद भी उन्हीं को किया जाता है जिन्होंने अपने ज़माने में लंबी लकीर खींची होगी। वही स्थिति आज देश की आ गई है। आपने देखा इंडिजिनस की बात बहुत पहले से थी, मैं इसमें पढ़ रहा था कि 5 दशक पहले आईएनएस नीलगिरी हमने बनाया भारत में, 5 दशक पहले, लेकिन धीरे 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 बनाई हुई चीज क्या होगा, कैसा होगा, ठीक हो रहा, उदास होके लेट गए, अरे सब ठीक चल रहा है। लेकिन आज आप देखिएगा कि फिर से ऐसी पॉलिटिकल विल हमारी जागी, जगाने वाला चाहिए, एक आदमी को उत्साह देने वाला चाहिए, बढ़ो बढ़ो बढ़ो, ये कहते रहे तो आज भारत सर्वोच्च देशों की कतार में खड़ा हो गया है। जिस दिन विक्रांत हमने देश को समर्पित किया, आईएनएस विक्रांत, तो मैं भी उसका आई विटनेस हूं, मुझे भी रहने का अवसर प्राप्त हुआ। दुनिया हिल गई कि कमाल कर दिया, अरे भाई हमने तो पहले भी बनाया था नीलगिरी, लेकिन रुक गया था प्रोसेस, लेकिन आज जब एकदम से बनाया तो हम उनके बराबरी में खड़े हो गए। रक्षा के मामले में 3 देश सर्वाधिक खर्च करते हैं, चाइना, यूएस और इंडिया, और कोई नहीं है। सिपरी की जो सर्वे हुई है 2020 में कि कौन लोग एक्सपोर्टर हैं, सबसे कितने देश हैं, तो उसमें 25 देश निकले, हम भी निकले, हम पहली बार एंट्री करे हैं। आज कमी कहाँ है? एक्सपोर्ट हमारा एकदम से 7-8 सालों में आगे बढ़ गया, कायाकल्प हम जिसे कह रहे हैं, कायाकल्प जैसा हो गया, कोई कहीं पर आज हम कम नहीं हैं, और सारी दुनिया हमको देख रही है। यूक्रेन और रसिया की लड़ाई हुई, मैं बार बार इसको इसलिए कहता हूं कि जब कोई व्यक्तित्व पैदा होता है तो दुनिया देखती है उसकी तरफ। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कि आप भी रुकिए, जेलेंस्की साहब, पुतिन साहब, आप भी रुकिए, हमने अपने बच्चे निकालने हैं। हमने निकाले, मेरी ड्यूटी खुद हिंडन एयरपोर्ट पर लगी थी, वहाँ और जाने नहीं देते थे। हमारे 5 मंत्री बाहर गए, निकाल के लाए, और दोनों मान गए। और पाकिस्तान हमारा बगल का देश, वो भी हमको अपने बच्चों को निकालने के लिए धन्यवाद, और उनके बच्चों ने तिरंगा निकाल के अपनी जान बचाई लगा के। इन सब चीज़ों में जैसा मैं देख रहा था कि बीच में पेंडेमिक आया था बहुत बड़ा, कुछ देशों में भागो जाओ, उनके पीछे जनता दौड़ रही है, उनकी कुर्सियों पर जनता बैठ गई है, उनके स्विमिंग पूल में तैर रहे हैं लोग, जान बचा रहे हैं, वो कहीं कोई नेवल कैंप में गया, कोई कैसे गया। मैं कोई बुराई के लिए नहीं कह रहा हूँ, मतलब कष्ट होता है, अपने पड़ोसी अड़ोसी देशों की ऐसी स्थितियाँ हो गई, लेकिन हमने ऐसे में अपनी आर्थिक स्थिति संभाल के रखी। पाकिस्तान हमारा पड़ोसी, मैं कहता हूँ परम मित्र है, वो भी मित्र है जो कोई सिखाते रहता है, कुछ न कुछ हमको भी सजग करते रहता है। आटे के लिए संघर्ष आप टेलीविजन पर देख रहे होंगे, आटे के लिए संघर्ष, और 80 करोड़ पहली लहर में, 80 करोड़ दूसरी लहर में, 80 करोड़ तीसरी लहर में अभी तक हम कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं। हम अपने लोगों को फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट अन्न दे रहे हैं। कुछ तो बात होगी, कोई तो बात होगी। आज विश्व में इतनी तारीफ हो रही, कोई तो बात होगी। रेटिंग में 3-4 बार देश के प्रधानमंत्री नंबर 1 पर आ जा रहे हैं। रेटिंग तो हम नहीं दे रहे हैं, रेटिंग देने वाले तो और लोग हैं। तो इसलिए बाकी बातें माननीय एडमिरल साहब ने बता दी हैं, शुक्ला जी ने अपना ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स दिए थे, जो उसमें सारी बात आपने बता दी हैं, क्या कैसा है, किस तरह से चलते हैं। और हमारे जो ब्रिजेश जी हैं, वशिष्ठ जी, उन्होंने पहले ही सारी चीज़ें बता दी हैं। मैं हट के बाकी चीज़ तो आपने सारी चीज़ें बता दी हैं। हर चीज़ पर हम शोध कर रहे हैं, हर चीज़ को कैसे नवीन करें, हम कैसे नया करें, किस तरह से आगे बढ़ें, एक धुन लगी हुई है हर एक में। आज और तो और हमारे बच्चे भी, वो भी आगे निकल रहे हैं, नए नए निर्माण। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कूदो, अरे कूदेगा जब तैरेगा तभी तो तैरना सीखेगा, कैसे आएगा आगे। आज हमारे उद्योग फलित हो रहे हैं, हम मिलजुल के काम कर रहे हैं। आर्मी और हमारे उद्योग मिलजुल के काम कर रहे हैं, चाहे नेवल हो, हमारा एयरफोर्स हो, हमारी आर्मी हो, हम क्या क्या कर सकते हैं। इंडिजिनस इंडिजिनस इंडिजिनस, ये एक ऐसा आत्मनिर्भरता का मंत्र ऐसा हो गया, हर एक को लगता है। अब दूसरी चीज़ों को लगाने पर एकदम होती है। मैं भी जब देखता हूँ कहीं कपड़े वपड़े देखता हूँ, ये कहाँ का होगा। अब मुझे ये टाई दी है आर्मी की तरफ से। मैं आज हरि कुमार जी को बता रहा था कि कभी कभी ये कपड़े भी शोभा बढ़ा देते हैं। मैं कुर्ता पैजामे जितने लाया था वो मैले हो गए और उसके साथ साथ छोटे हो गए, एक आध तो जो रखे थे घर से। ये सूट काम आ गया तो मैंने देखा कहाँ का है, मेड इन इंडिया है कि नहीं, है तो बाहर का, लेकिन है इंडिया का, लगाने का फैशन बाहर का है। तो यहाँ तक भी एक चस होती है कभी कभी, लेकिन इतना चलेगा। हर चीज़ आज हमारी भारतीय है और भारतीय होने के नाते हम सबको गर्व है, हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं और मैं आप सबको बधाई देता हूं। बाकी चीज़ें तो सारी चीज़ें इसमें आ गई हैं, मैं उन सारी चीज़ों पर आना नहीं चाह रहा हूं। आपका एली के बारे में आप लोगों ने बता ही दिया है, कैसी चीज़ें होती, मुझे बोलने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। अन्य चीज़ें जो मुझे यहाँ पर दी गई हैं उसके बारे में भी आप सब ने बता दिया है। मैं सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो आज देश का मनोबल 7वें आसमान पर है और कुछ ईश्वर को जो जिसे मानते हों, विभिन्न धर्मों के लोग, जाति धर्म वर्ग क्षेत्र से ऊपर उठ के हम मानने वाले लोग हैं। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी भी इसी फॉर्मूले पर चलते हैं। तो ईश्वर की ऐसी कृपा हुई है कि आज कहीं कोई कमज़ोर नहीं है। हर क्षेत्र में अन्न के भंडार भरे हैं, हमारा विदेशी मुद्रा का भंडार भर गया है और हमारा स्वदेशी मुद्रा का भंडार भर गया है। अगर 1 साल तक भूखमरी भी रहेगी तो जो जैसी हालत में है उस तरह से आज हम खिला सकते हैं। आज IMF की रिपोर्ट भी हमारे पक्ष में आ रही है। ये सब आपकी वजह से हो रहा है, हम सब की वजह से हो रहा है। जो यहाँ बैठे हैं इन सब की वजह से, मेल मिलाप से हो रहा है। एक यहाँ से हुक उठी है, बड़े चलो बड़े चलो बड़े चलो, कोई परवाह नहीं कर रहा है, चाहे साइंटिस्ट हो, चाहे आर्मी हो, चाहे उद्योगपति हो। इसीलिए आज जो इंडिजिनस है और हमारा आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के लिए हमने MSME हैं, हमारे निजी उद्योग हैं, हमारे प्राइवेट उद्योग हैं, सबको समान अवसर देकर एक इतिहास कायम किया है। मैं आपकी इस बैठक की सफलता की कामना करता हूं। प्रभु हम सबको शक्ति दे, इसी तरह से हम आगे बढ़ें और बढ़ के जो स्तर हमारा बहुत पहले था देश का, उस स्थान तक कुछ दूरी तक पहुंच गए हैं, टॉप तक पहुंचें। इसी अपेक्षा के साथ अपनी वाणी को समाप्त करता हूं, विराम देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। भारत माता की जय।
Thank you very much, sir, for the inaugural address and setting the tone for the seminar in the right direction. I would now request the Chief of the Naval Staff to hand over Naval Crest to the Honorable Raksha Rajya Mantri.
मैं एक चीज़ की विशेष बधाई देना चाहता हूँ। देखिए, जब धुन चढ़ती है, मैंने कहा कैसी धुन चढ़ती है, जैसे ही मैं एंट्री किया मुझे आईएनएस दिखाया गया बाहर। मैंने कहा इसमें क्या बात है, लेकिन बहुत बड़ी बात है, 100 किलो चॉकलेट से बनाया गया है आईएनएस। मैं बधाई देता हूँ, ये देश को भी पता लगना चाहिए कि 100 किलो चॉकलेट से हमारे नेवी के जो अफसरान हैं उनके निर्देश में हमारे जितने जवान हैं उन्होंने तैयार किया, जो टेक्नीशियंस हैं उनने तैयार किया है। उसका दर्शन भी सारे उद्योगपतियों को अवश्य कराइएगा और सारे लोग उसका दर्शन करें जो बाहर आईएनएस लगाया है हमने। थैंक यू।
May I now request the panelists for the seminar to come up on the dais and kindly take the seat. Ladies and gentlemen, with the conclusion of inaugural session, we now move to next session during which we will have discussion on the subject with a panel of experts in this field. The format for the session will be an introductory presentation followed by panel discussion, thereafter Q&A session. During the presentation, we will be sharing some key insights into missile life extension, refurbishment process based on Indian Navy's experience in the field, and bring out the salience of the policy that will provide context for the discussion that will follow. Ladies and gentlemen, the scope of the presentation is as flashed on the screen. During the course of presentation, I will touch upon the concept of armament sustenance with some global trends. This will be followed by components of sustenance, life extension process, and some success stories of Indian Navy in the field. Finally, I will bring out the salience of the GOI policy on the subject and challenges being envisaged in its implementation. Sustenance of an armament can be defined as a process of maintaining its operational capability at an optimum life cycle cost in terms of its reliability, maintainability, availability within as well as beyond the initial shelf life specified by the OEM. One common misconception about practice of sustaining armaments beyond initial life is that only countries with limited resources make use of this concept. However, the global trends suggest otherwise. The clippings on the slide indicates that life extension is a common practice in countries like US and France and many others, primarily for two reasons. Firstly, the trend indicates that inherent life of an armament is more than that of initial predictions. The slide shows data retrieved from technical report of US Army Missile Command available on open source with respect to initial and subsequent life predictions. We may see that there are cases wherein the missiles have been sustained for a period 5 times more than that of the initial service life. Back home, Indian Navy has also been successfully able to sustain missiles of 1980s vintage with in-house efforts. While the first reason was technical, the second is related to cost saving. The data on slide indicates quantum of cost avoidance achieved by adopting life extension and refurbishment. It may be seen that in some cases, the cost avoidance ratio achieved is to the tune of 150:1 and 178:1. A similar cost avoidance and cutting has also been observed by Indian Navy during in-house life extensions of missile. Having seen what sustenance is, let us see what are the components of sustenance. The sustenance of any armament is a process in itself comprising of periodic testing, spare provisioning in case of failure during testing, life extension and refurbishment by mean of testing and indigenization, and finally product improvement and upgrades as part of obsolescence management. One of the most important aspects of sustenance program is life extension and refurbishment. It has been observed that the OEM stipulated life of armament is always a conservative estimate, and technically there is always a scope of continued serviceability post completion of initial life. The commercial aspect behind the limited life by the OEM is also a factor to be considered. At times, it has been observed that OEM expresses its inability to provide support to the vintage system for which the assembly lines have been discontinued. In addition to these factors, the time and the cost penalty in procurement of new systems is also a factor for going ahead with life extension and refurbishment. The process of life extension commences at the fag end of the armament life and starts with the selection and the breakdown. This is followed by aging program for life-limiting components, testing of individual components of various sections, and establishing baseline parameters. It also involves refurbishment of the life-limiting assemblies and sub-assemblies which fails during testing. However, based on experience gained in the field of life extension, it is generally seen that during the first life extension post-completion of initial life, need for refurbishment is very limited. Breakdown of a missile is one of the most critical activities, and it becomes more challenging in absence of OEM support. The articles are broken down using specially designed jigs, fixtures, and tools, and are segregated in two categories. The first one is non-energetic group, which includes airframe, electronic components, rubber components, mechanical components, and engine components. The second is the energetic groups, which include fuel, warhead, safety arm devices, pyros, igniters, explosive bolts, thermal batteries, etc. The missile assemblies and sub-assemblies are subjected to aging and testing using various test equipments. The slide indicates details of various test infrastructure required by our services for undertaking LE program. It includes breakdown facility, including explosive safe area, environmental chambers, rocket motor static firing facilities, radiography, explosive test equipments. Within Indian Navy, these facilities are available with the specialized laboratories of Director General of Naval Armament Organization of Indian Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is deemed complete without success stories. The success stories of Indian Navy with respect to the life extension of missile inventory are as flashed on the screen. The life extension is one of the stated charters of Director General of Naval Armament Inspection Organization of Indian Navy and is undertaken in close coordination with other sister agencies like Naval Armament Depots, Missile Technical Positions, DRDO, and CQ Ammunition. Having seen the process of life extension and refurbishment, let us see what the GOI policy on the subject has in it for our industry partners. The current policy issued in the year 2022 is a revision of 2003 policy in which Mrs. BDL was the nodal agency for life extension and refurbishment of the missiles. The scope of the revised policy is as flashed on the screen, with its primary aim of life extension and refurbishment of missiles. The main stakeholders are services, Mrs. BDL, and industry partners. The policy categorizes the missile inventory into three: missile with OEM support, vintage missiles with no OEM support, and indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured by Indian production partner. The policy also brings out the need for industries handholding by the services, DRDO, DPSUs, and QA agencies in terms of provisioning of test infrastructure and technical know-how. As said earlier, the policy divides the missile inventory into three categories. It also specifies the approach for life extension for each category. It presents industry the option to enter joint venture with the OEM for missiles for which OEM support is available in terms of technical as well as material support. It opens the door for the industry having experience in the field of missiles and aerospace for those missiles for which OEM support is not available. In case of indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured missiles by Indian production partner, the production partner will be responsible for life extension and refurbishment. In case of insolvency of Indian production partner, the procedure for second category will be adopted. The other salients of the policy are as flashed on the screen. It talks about preparation of life extension roadmap by the services and sharing it with the industry to give adequate time to the industry to prepare. It also emphasizes on timely completion of life extension activity to maintain the operational capability of the armed forces. The policy gives provision for sharing of proof and test facilities available with the services, DRDO, with the industry on chargeable basis. As per the policy, the first order may be divided equally between BDL and the industry, and subsequent order 100% on open tender basis. So finally, what is there in the policy for our industry partners? The opportunities are flashed on the screen. It covers the entire gamut of sustenance activities from transfer of technology, joint ventures, facilities upgrade, repairs, indigenization, and refurbishment. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing comes without challenges, and so is the case with the execution of this policy. A list of challenges which we anticipate are flashed on the screen, which includes industry know-how on missiles and LE process, explosive handling, breakdown facilities, availability of test facilities, consolidation of tri-services requirements, need for consortium approach by the industry, and type of inescapable support required from the OEM for LE and refurbishment. These are the challenges for which we will try to find the way ahead during the panel discussion with the eminent personalities in the field of missile technology. With this, I have finished with the introductory presentation. I know there will be questions, but we intend to take questions from the audience post completion of the panel discussion. Now, with this as background and better familiarity of the audience on the topic at hand, we shall now move to next phase of our seminar, which is panel discussion phase. I would request the panelists to speak within the allotted time of 5 to 6 minutes. The first bell will ring after 4 minutes of talk and final after 5 minutes. To start with the discussion, we are delighted to have with us Shri Atul Dinkar Rane, outstanding scientist, Director General BrahMos, DRDO, and CEO and MD BrahMos Aerospace. He has been a core member of BrahMos Aerospace since its inception and has made significant contribution in successful demonstration, induction, and subsequent productionization of BrahMos, the world's fastest supersonic cruise missile system. May I request Shri Atul Dinkar Rane to share his views on opportunities and challenges for Messrs. BrahMos and industry at large on taking on missile sustenance requirements from Indian Armed Forces and integration of defense ecosystem with the Aero Armament Sustenance requirements. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. All the specialists on the dais and equally vitalized specialists in the audience. In fact, sometimes when I'm looking at the audience, I'm seeing there are some people there who I think would know a bit more than I do when it comes to the technicalities of sustenance and life extension. BrahMos is, of course, a much younger organization with respect to the slides which Harpreet was showing. We have done our first delivery to the Indian Navy in 2009. So we are just about 15 years away. Though we're a 25-year-old organization, it's just 15 years since we made our first delivery. But then our life period was, determined life period was 10 years. So we did go through one life extension for 5 years, so it's 15. But now we are close to that 15 and we are working on what is the method to go next. Of course, it sounds nice to say that it's easy to do life extension. All you have to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it actually is not. There are a lot of smaller things which need to be looked at as we go through. The main thing what I would like to say is that an industry or all of us getting into sustenance and life extension requires design knowledge. Let me be very, very frank on this. BrahMos are the designers, or we're part of the designers, DRDO on one side and our Russian partners on the other side. It is the trust which we have had between the two of us based on which we have done the design of this missile. There was a process stock. What we call as process stock is the already developed items have been brought in, and that's how we were able to create the missile system so fast, from when we started the design to when we have gone to the production and deliveries and inductions. The tacit knowledge of having the design capabilities and the design knowledge, that has helped us in what is necessary in terms of a life extension. Luckily, BrahMos is a sealed system which requires very, very little maintenance. All it requires is hooking it up to a checkout system once in a year, doing a checkout. I guess so, because, just sort of hook it up to a checkout system, have it checked out, and if there is a problem, open it up. But then what we do is, right at the current moment, it comes back to BrahMos from the user. But the users or the where the missiles have been deployed in the technical positions, they have been asked to do a certain bit of preventive maintenance. Now, let me tell you, every single point of sustenance of a missile system depends on how it has been stored and how it is being handled. There's no doubt that this is a very, very important point. I guess the users have been handling BrahMos like a baby because we are a little expensive. But even then, there have been problems. But the bottom line from our side is, for the very complex systems of, be it the electronics or be it the propulsion systems, in our case, the ramjet, it is going to be a requirement for us to be working with our original OEMs and our JV partners. BrahMos is in the line of doing all the AMCs till now. We have a warranty of 3 years, followed by which we have the AMCs. We haven't had much to do, except, yes, the Navy has been having a few problems with us with respect to some of the components of the missile. We are trying to get over it through the other route which Harpreet talked about, indigenization. The missile today is 68% indigenized. This is in terms of production, so obviously it means that in terms of replacement also it is possible. It's that last mile of 20% is what we are trying to work on in the next couple of years. But then we are a joint venture, so we need as part of our commercial thing. Anyway, I am running out of time, but let me tell you that life extension is a necessity to know about the system inside the design. There may be other ways, a black box type of testing, but yes. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, sir, for an informative talk and your points raised regarding system knowledge, complete system knowledge and requirement of the designer, as well as storage conditions and handling by the users have been well noted, sir. And we'll note these points for our consumption, sir. For our next speaker, we have with us Shri K.S.C. Iyer, Director General of Naval Armament. Shri Iyer has an extensive experience in commissioning many missile workshops of Indian Navy and heads Director General of Naval Armament Organization of the Navy. We are interested to hear from you, sir, on aspects of infrastructure requirements towards undertaking sustenance, life extension, refurbishment of missiles, and also on sharing the expertise held with the NAD's personnel in undertaking life extension and refurbishment. Over to you, sir.
Good morning to all of you. Admiral Gormade, Vice Chief of Naval Staff, flag officers, friends, partners from the industry. This, as you know, we are gathered here to talk on the sustenance of aero armaments. This, since the time is short, I will be the life extension of ammunition was well established for the last 40 or 50 years. When the missiles were inducted, and most of these missiles were from the Russian OEMs, so hardly we used to get any data. And there was limited life for these missiles. So there was, and when we approached them for life extension, exorbitant amount of money they used to charge, and the number of missiles used to be consumed were also substantial. Hence, as brought out by the Raksha Rajya Mantri, people used to look, hey ki drishti se dekhte the, what's. So we also in the Navy, in the almost 20 years hence, we started developing this capability. And to cut short, there are four pillars for this life extension. The first is a policy. The policy, most of the Western countries, US, they follow policy, mill standards are there, standard agreements are there, AOPs are there, where they well laid down definition is there how the life extension has to be carried out. This was not available with us. Second thing is you should require infrastructure. Third is you require facilities for carrying out various tests on these missiles. The tests are as shown. because the missile, when it is stored in the magazines, they are prone to various environmental effects. So I've just covered in brief the environmental effects are temperature, humidity, vibration, corrosion, and a mixture of both. Due to these, the missile's life gets shortened, and they are all prone to malfunction when they are put into actual use. So there should be some, and more so in the case of air armaments, because the life of the air armaments are restricted due to the number of takeoff and landings, and that too especially in the Navy. In case of an aircraft carrier, it becomes much more substantial. And flight hours, what are the flight hours? So the whatever avionics, electronics, etc. is there, the life gets shortened. So we have to be much more stringent when we are carrying out the life extension or refurbishment. The first, as I told, the first pillar is the standard. The second is a policy. Now, policy, there was a policy laid down by the DDP in 2003. The policy was only the BDL, the DPSC was supposed to handle the life extension of various missiles. Unfortunately, we developed our own theory and we developed our own practice for doing the life extension of missiles, and we got experience into that. Next is, yeah, you can just see the energetics which used in a missile, the various cracks, and these are some of the methods. Next is the breakdown. This is the most important thing. Breakdown, it's a hazardous operation that there is always a risk of explosion. So have this, we require special type of infrastructure. The infrastructure which is required is tools, special type of tools, trained manpower. This is some of the infrastructure which is required for storing the missiles and ammunition, the special type of magazines. These are cleared by a regulatory agency, Center for Fire and Environmental Safety of the DRDO. Similarly, these are the process rooms where all these missiles or ammunition are again broken down into its sub-assemblies. And these sub-assemblies, since as you know, the missiles consist of, apart from the energetic materials, lot of electronic components. These electronic components are subjected to various vibration and other modes of testing in the various labs, and industry can support us. And the last is trained manpower. In the last 8 decades or so, trained manpower from the various Indian Navy, the Directorate General of Naval Armament, people have been trained to handle explosives. As I told, that there is always a hazard of explosion. We have developed special tools because the OEM has never parted with their data or the way how a missile has to be broken down. So we have developed our own tools to deal with these explosives. Now we have gone a step further. We are in dialogue with various R&D labs like R&D engineers. And during the DefExpo, we could meet some of the firms who are into automated way of extracting these explosives, breakdown of missiles, and extracting the explosives or the energetic components from these missiles. And then lastly, as I told you about this one, the lastly is the disposal. Most of these explosives, when they get the life expired, they have to be disposed of. They cannot be disposed of in the normal manner, because these are all now due to climatic change affecting the environment. These have to be disposed. So there also the industry can look forward for now. At present, some of the explosives like pyrotechnics and these are being exposed by burning in the open ground, and some of them are being dumped on or by actual functioning. So these are some of the areas. As again, I would like to summarize from the 4 pillars. The industry, what is lacking is don't have the trained manpower. They don't have the proper infrastructure. We can extend support. What is the infrastructure regarding testing, regarding storage, how to break down? We are willing to share this know-how with the industry and how the infrastructure has to be planned, and it can be. And because these are all very much cost intensive, and we can always have a lending hand, as has been brought out in the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views on the subject. Key takeaways for our industry partners are criticality in the breakdown procedure, infrastructure requirement, trained manpower requirement, and as Digona sir has brought out, that the industry or the services are always ready to share its expertise with the industry to go ahead with this policy. For our next speaker, we have Commodore Siddharth Mishra, CMD of Bharat Dynamics Limited. Under his leadership, the vision of BDL has seen a sea change, and today the company is looking towards global footprint with an ambitious growth plan and excellent order book. We are interested to hear you from, sir, the opportunities and challenges envisaged by Messrs. BDL in the next couple of years in meeting these honors, as well as steps taken or being taken by Messrs. BDL with the industry partners towards effective implementation of the policy. May I request you, sir, to deliver your talk.
Good morning, everyone. This 5 minutes is a very short time to discuss about the refurbishment of missiles. I am from Bharat Dynamics Limited. We are manufacturing different types of missiles, ATGM, surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-surface missiles. We manufacture different types of torpedoes. We manufacture CMDS systems. We also are into long-range missiles, strategic missiles. We have experience of manufacturing almost more than 1.3 lakh missiles since last 52 years of existence of BDL. We have full capability, capacity, extra capacity to handle all types of refurbishment. Now, as per the new policy, we welcome private industries to get into this refurbishment business. But I would like to say, as it was told by Chairman of SIDM, that this business is highly infrastructure oriented business, where you require a big infrastructure for opening the missile, checking the missile, testing it, testing the life and life extension and life refurbishment of missile. Without knowledge of the design, it is very difficult for any company. Whosoever claims that he will be able to do it, it is just in air. I'm telling you that it has to be, the design parameter has to be with you. So, in case you want to have a meaningful refurbishment policy, I would recommend that BDL can lead in this area, and any private company wants to collaborate with us, most welcome, because in a missile you have propulsion system, you have electronics, you have warhead, you have control systems. Anyone who's interested in getting a technology from abroad, from any OEM on this, can come and work with us, and we can handle different types of refurbishment processes. In service of Indian Navy, we have club missiles, we have still missile, we have requirement for even old missiles like IGLA. What my request is that we can lead in this direction. Other industries who wants to work with us, they can, they are most welcome. They can come and work in collaboration in specific field, and we can take the entire responsibility of refurbishment. As you know that the missiles which are there in the inventory of all three services are not less than 20 to 25 years old. And when these missiles were bought, they were already 20-year-old design. Now, to create an infrastructure for manufacturing of any component is not possible, because the spin-off of the technology is not there. In case if I want to make a propulsion system of that old missile, the technology is very old. Even if I create an infrastructure for manufacturing, it is not economically viable. So it is better that we utilize the services of the OEM, use our facility, use our trained manpower, which can handle the entire gamut of missile technology, and we can be benefited out of this. I think this model will help in coming out of the problem of refurbishment of all three services. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views, which will act as a beacon for the industry to work in the field of missile sustenance. Our next panelist is Rear Admiral Sanjay Mishra, VSM retired, former DGNAI, who is currently the Senior Vice President of Mrs. EEL Nagpur, to get a better understanding of sustenance of missiles, explosives, in which Admiral Mishra has many decades of experience and expertise. We are excited to know his views on opportunities and challenges for the private industry with respect to the latest policy issued by GOI. May I request Rear Admiral Mishra, retired, to deliver his talks.
Good morning, gentlemen. This counter is the devil, which is, the time is taking out. Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, Assistant Chief of Naval Staff, Policy and Plans, distinguished panelists, and the erudite audience. I wear a navy blue jacket, Army War College tie, in an Air Force auditorium, having scribbled my notes after borrowing a pen from Kriti, probably on stationery that's been made by Department of Defense Production and Supplies. So it's all inclusive, and I represent a private company. Air armament, if one quickly goes through it, it's munition to start with, the basics, rockets, flares, chaff, missiles. So let me start with the most complex, because the easier ones can be done faster. Safety, reliability, and serviceability, the chairperson of SIDM having talked about that. Now, when you come to a private industry, the first thing is they ask for, you ask for an ROQ, that's request for quotation. And he, in turn, looks for SOW, that's statement of work. So how do you get to this statement of work per se? We talked about knowledge of design, that we should have design knowledge, we should have storage data available to us, all fine. Captain Harpreet brought out what all does a missile actually comprise, and Divana brought out what are the various modes of failures. But the issue is that when you're looking at energetics in particular, you're basically looking at two things. One is the activation energy, and the other thing is heat flow. And rest all is an interplay of these two basic things. And let me tell you, with my experience, the way we handle life extension or refurbishment would be a later part, is very similar to the way we have handled COVID, the pandemic. Everybody's got a different prescription, and there is no standard protocol. Americans do it differently, the French do it differently, Russians do it differently. So what is it that we require from the industry? Again, I represent the industry now. But how do you actually prescribe a statement of work? Just a very simple thing, a warhead, an explosive. Now it's got thermal insulation, it's got thermal varnish, it's got explosives. You've got propellants, you've got double-base propellants, you've got composite propellants, you've got composite modified double-base propellants. Where do you go? You have turbines, you have got issues with gas, you've got issues with bearings. Where do you go? You've got fasteners, you've got elastomers, where you have rubber components, you have Viton, you have Teflon, etc., etc. So what's important is our in-service agency that should actually break down any missile for the first time. We should not be, because if you give it to a private industry or any industry, industries are looking for return on investments. They will never have that kind of a manpower. They may claim anything, but they would need a statement of work from you. They would need breakdown procedures to be prescribed by you. For them to develop their own breakdown procedures, and taking from what Chairman Brahmo said, that you need to have design knowledge. How many missiles? Every missile has got a different design. How many designs do we expect any industry, for that matter, including my friend Siddharth, his industry, to have? But the services, you are living with those missiles. So you are the best people to be in place to, do those baseline parameters and paper particulate generation to start with. Make down your breakdown procedures. Digona's talked about that he's got those facilities. Have all those procedures in place, and then probably invite the industry and tell him, look, this is all that we want you to do. he would be in a better place to actually give you a right quote and in a better place to tell you as to how much it can be done. Another point, we have got 29 seconds left, is about that life extension can only be carried out up to a point. Beyond that, we will have to go for refurbishment. So the faster and the younger you catch your energetics, the better it is. Tomorrow is going to be late. If we want refurbishment to be done, we would probably have to start with now, start breaking down stuff, generate parameters, and then ask the industry to do it. Thank you. Just finished it in nick of time.
Thank you, sir, for your views on the subject. Our next panelist is Rear Admiral Brijesh Vashishta, Director General, Naval Armament Inspection, Flag Officer. The Flag Officer heads NAI Organization of Indian Navy, responsible for quality keeping of all armament stores held with Navy and for quality building in those being developed for the Navy, following the womb-to-tomb philosophy, that is providing inspection and QA coverage to all armament stores at all stages of its life cycle, from conceptualization, design, development, product, procurement, in-service storage, and disposal. May I now request DGNAI sir to deliver his talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be part of this distinguished panel of eminent personality from the field of armaments. I stand here today to specifically talk about the enormous work that has been done by the Indian Navy in the specific field of life extension and refreshment of various conventional guided naval armaments. Gentlemen, I recollect I joined Navy in 1990 and my first posting was in INS Kalinga as a NAI officer, being missile inspecting officer. At that time, as a sub-lieutenant, I was doing life extension of one of the surface-to-air missiles. And today, as a DGNA, I am at the fag end of my career. I am still extending the life of the same missile. What does it mean? It means, as what Captain Harpreet was saying, that one of the foreign manufacturer of the missile, they have increased the life of their missile from 5 to 28. It means that ratio, LE ratio, they have achieved 5.6. In this particular case, we have spent 3.5 decades. Our LE ratio is 7.5. And this journey, I will say at that time, we used to do the life extension based on the basic information, basic techniques available with us. However, one advantage was there were failures for less once I am doing initial life extension. Over a period of time, once we went for second LE, third life extension, fourth life extension, then we started facing problem of subsystems becoming either they are degrading in their performance or they are failing. Then there was need either to procure those subsystems from the foreign OEM because these stores were the foreign, or you have to refurbish or do the indigenization. That was one kickstart of indigenization requirement as far as naval armament is concerned, particularly guided missiles. By that time, though there were problems, expertise was not there, benchmark data was not there, in mid-90s test facility was not there. DRDO was also not having that much expertise. However, over a period of time, DRDO also developed expertise by doing the development of the missiles. Navy also had their infrastructure developed, like rocket motor static firing facility, drag disc facility for battery performance, ISET chambers, explosive test facilities at NA Visakhapatnam and Mumbai, then X-ray facilities at NA Jabalpur and various other places. This gave us enough backup to have our testing done in our own place. However, it was not that easy because we need to analyze the result of those firings, of those performances, which we were not having any backup data. In that, DRDO labs were the extreme help for us, particularly HEMRL, ARD, RCI, DMRL, and DRDL. So it was a combined effort, and I will not forget about DGQA, CQME, CQMET, these two agencies at Pune and Calcutta. With that combined effort, we could generate the benchmark data and then analyze that with the help of HEMRL, other labs, and then we could correlate where we stand and how much life assessment and remaining life is there. This was the process we followed. And in the mean, it means that Navy has got 4 decades of experience in life extension. And as far as to the best of my knowledge, Navy is maybe the only agency who has most of the experience in life extension of guided missiles and guided weapons. So the same experience was shared with IF. Indian Air Force has approached us for most of their missiles which are common with us. Like Pichora was the IGLA RVV R73. So their life extension has been undertaken by Navy at NAE Karanja. Over a period of time, now industry has also come up. Various industries has developed, and many life extension, refurbishment, indigenization program, which we needed to sustain our inventory, industry is helping us a lot. And with the expertise developed, I sum up because 5 minutes, I was thinking next time we should give some more time, budget is there. With the assistance of DGONA, CQA, ME, DRDO labs, and as CMD BDL says, BDL, industry can bank upon us. It's not a single job, it is a combined job. Then they can go ahead with the life extension. And once they become OEM for export also, then they can take up their life extension of those already exported stores. It's a big opportunity which is there and which has got a big future. So they are welcome, and as a combined team, we'll be able to do the thing. Now, I recollect one incident, one meeting which was chaired by Defense Secretary a few months back. One of the industry says, DefSec asks, what is the infrastructure you need? Then industry says, well, I need a shed. No, it's not a shed. You need a surface clear, approved explosive handling areas, for which I am using DGONA facilities. BDL already has this. They need different test facilities. They need different proof ranges. They need labs. They need X-rays. For that, we are there. And as said, to achieve this common goal, all of us can meet and do the needful to meet our Prime Minister's dream of Atmanirbharta. Thank you, Dhanyavad. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable views on the subject. Our next panelist is Air Vice Marshal V. Rajshekhar, VSM, who tenets the appointment of Assistant Chief of Air Staff Weapons of the Indian Air Force. The Air Officer has been involved in induction and formulation of maintenance philosophy of number of new weapon systems in the Indian Air Force. And his perspective on consolidation of missile sustenance requirements in this seminar is much awaited. Sir, may I request you to deliver your talks?
Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, distinguished panelists, and all the industry participants, and all the service officers. It's indeed a privilege for me to invite me to give the perspective of the Indian Air Force on the life extension and sustenance of the air armament stores. And I would also touch upon some of the guided weapon stores, that is the vertical which as ACS weapons I am handling. I'll just give a brief perspective on the journey of Indian Air Force, what I would say on this life extension program. While Indian Air Force has a clearly stated policy on the indigenization of the aviation assets, whether it is the indigenous manufacture of the spares or the indigenous life extension programs on various aviation platforms, whether it is Su-30, whether it is the Russian class of helicopters, or the transport aircraft and all those things. And we have well-established BRDs, and a large number of private industry has been participating, including, of course, the defense PSUs and the DRDO labs in these programs. While coming to the air armament stores, IAF is the custodian of the large amount of air armament stores, which includes from various countries, whether it is Russian, Israelis, the Western, which includes both the French as well as the US armament stores. Not only, and the range of weapons what Indian Air Force operates includes both from simple missiles with a radio guided or a thermal missiles to precision guided munitions, which again they're all highly proprietary in nature, and it's not available in the open source, and the OEMs are not forthcoming. Similarly, we have the loitering munitions and a large number of gun ammunition we operate, and of course a large array of guided weapon systems. To start with the journey of Indian Air Force, we have been predominantly dependent right from the beginning on the OEMs for the life extension programs, especially on the Western missiles front. They are not forthcoming to share any of the technology, but however, they have been doing it, whether it is Israelis or Frenchies. There are a large number of programs which are run through the contracts on life extension as well as refurbishments. that is the first on the Western, as far as the Western armament source is concerned. On the Russian front, we have predominantly Russian air armament source, whether it includes the R-73 missiles, R-27, RWV missiles, and of course a number of dumb bombs to smart bombs, to laser-guided bombs, that is the precision bombs, that is the glide bombs, and all those things. Wherein the life extension on these dumb bombs, of course, there is no life extension which is granted. It has got a huge life which is associated. After that, they are discarded. Life extension, again, we have been predominantly, thanks to Indian Navy and various DRDO organizations who have helped us in various testing and supporting us in the life extension, especially predominantly for the Russian missiles, that is R-73 and RWV missiles. But once again, I would like to mention here, while life extension, simple life extension without any refurbishment is fraught with problems which we have faced in the last few years. We have been operating the life of OEM. Yes, it has been definitely given a conservative lifing which is there starting from 8 years to 11 years on these Russian missiles especially. However, the operational life, it has been, the Russians especially give the life of these missiles, not only the shelf life, it has got the operational life in terms of landings, in terms of loadings on the aircraft, and in terms of the storage environment. So any life extension, while we have a well-established procedure which has been established through our RCMA missiles and RCMA air armament stores, and of course with the DGNA and the vast amount of facilities, I think we are now quite capable of taking on the challenges of the life extension program in the country, that is without refurbishment. I will take 2 more minutes. While these life extension programs have succeeded to a large extent, however, the reliability of these life extension missiles is a matter of concern to us, wherein we have had large number of failures on the R-73 missiles as well as RWV. So that risk of whether the reliability can be achieved 95% is a question mark. With pure, simple life extension program, with whatever sample size, those sample size, we may have to rethink of the sample size of the missiles, what we are carrying out for simple life extension. So that is the reason why Indian Air Force has thought, because we had 10 cases of failures of R-73 missiles, both RWV and R-73 missiles. So these particular missiles, not only, in fact, 4 of them have burned on the aircraft platform itself, even damaging the aircraft also. So a lot depends on the storage conditions and a lot many other things. So whether if you have exploited the operational life, whether we should go in for the life extension or not. So these are the questions which we need to ponder over as we proceed with this life extension. So Indian Air Force has decided that we should go in for probably as a stopgap arrangement, limited life extension can be done instead of the existing policy of almost 1.5 times the life extension of the missiles. Rather than that, we should probably compulsorily going in after might be 2 to 3 years of extension beyond the OEM specified life, we can going in for probably refurbishment. We have not done so far any refurbishment on the air armament source. However, we have experience on the refurbishment of the guided missile system, that is the Pichora system, wherein both including the propellants as well as the warheads has been developed by HEMRL, again thanks to HEMRL, and it is being done. So refurbishment is not a is a new thing which we are starting. Probably for the air armament source, we will be starting new, but whereas for the guided weapons, Pichora missiles, for the last almost 15 years, we have been getting the supplies from the ordnance factories. Again, ordnance factories is a good source for the manufacture of the explosive, the energetic materials, explosive materials. Almost all the 6 to 7, whether it is boosters, sustainers, igniters, squibs, and the propellants and the warheads, everything is being manufactured. We already, for the last 15 years on the Pichora missiles, we are doing the refurbishment. That is, the entire raw materials are being supplied by the various ordnance factories, and we are doing it ourselves in Indian Air Force, the refurbishment of the guided weapon systems. Similarly, of course, some of the other systems like OSA and IGLA missiles, we are going through the BDL route. Again, BDL is doing it with a contract through the OEMs, and not we are not really truly indigenous, we can say. And the other Indian Air Force provides the opportunities is on the chaffs and flares and the explosive-aided cartridges, carts for the ejection seats, as well as the power cards for the release of the various air armament stores. This is once again a good field where industry, private industry can participate. A lot is being done on the indigenization of the chaffs and flares through HAMRL, Defense Laboratory, Jodhpur, and some of the private industries also. But then we haven't achieved, I would say we are very conservative on indigenization of these cartridges. Out of 183 EX cartridges what Indian Air Force is operating, using, only about 67 has been done. Of course, though all of them cannot be done because of the limited quantity in some of the fleets, whereas a large number of almost another 80 odd there is a scope for the industry to participate in that. Similarly, chaffs and flares, if I put it out of 25 what we are using, there are only truly 2 only have been indigenized so far. One is on the chaff and one is on the flare, which recently the TOT has been given. One of the private industry has been manufacturing these chaffs and flares, 4 more chaffs and flares, that's 26 mm and 50 mm, through TOT from one of the Serbian firm. Yes, indeed the policy is a path-breaking policy, I would say. However, we have to not only, yes, initially to start with through the OEM, it's okay to establish joint transfer of technology and manufacture. However, we should look at indigenous with the experience of the Pichora missiles, the guided weapon, this thing. I think as police explosive side, we should look at indigenous development of the warheads as well as the explosives. We got enough of, I think, experience both with RCI, that is the RDO labs, as well as the, I would say, with the DPSUs. But one of the most important thing is the electronic components. What should we do with the electronic components? So no refurbishment has been planned for this. While large number of testing through life extension program, everything is being done. That is the most important things which we need to consider. What should be the roadmap for the indigenization? And concluding this talk, I would say I think we need to have a clear roundtable discussion with all the 3 services and with both private industry and see where we can go, what is achievable, what is not achievable, along with the DRDO, the entire stakeholders. We need to have a focused discussions and approach with all the 3 services and all the stakeholders and clearly lay down the roadmap and go ahead with that firm conviction and commitment. And I'm sure we'll be able to achieve a large number, sustenance of these imported missiles till we go on indigenous, entire indigenous weapon systems, which probably is another decade and a half or 2 decades from now. Thank you. And sorry for exceeding.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing Indian Air Force perspective on life extension and refurbishment of the missiles. Our next panelist is Shri Arvind Kumar, Associate Director at HAMRL, who brings on the table DRDO's perspective on this topic. Shri Arvind Kumar's expertise is in the field of propellants and has contributed extensively to various developmental missile programs steered by DRDO. We are fortunate to have you, sir. May I request you to deliver your talk?
Morning. I think Atmanirbharta word itself, when we talk, it means it is already started Atmanirbharta. If you remember 7 years back or 8 years back, we used self-reliance word. Now we are everywhere, we are using Atmanirbharta. It means we have now on the way to Atmanirbharta. Now second thing is that because if you talk about the modern rocket, so it started with from here only, in the Karnataka only. I think in 1780 we have first rocket was fired from the, at that time they were Atmanirbhar. After that, everybody knows the Kalams up because of the mean we got all the development in the rocket and propellant. Nowadays, why I am talking about the propellant only? Because propellant also can be used in as explosive, and explosive also can be used in both the cases. First, I will tell you about the brief about the propellant. So, what is the status of the propellant right now? It started like in HMAL in that. After that, now in 2023, we have so many programs are there. So this is the lab which deals with the explosives and propellants. This is the history. So now based on that, you can say now how mature we are. Like I will give one example, like 200 second it started with the ISP, one of the parameter. Now we are at par with for almost all the foreign contenders, like 255, and maybe in another 2-3 years we will get the 260 ISP. These are the solid propellant, basically is used for the missile to propel the missile and rocket, and then after combustion it produces a thrust. So it's a simple definitions I have taken from the solid propellant. Generally, when we talk about the propellants, why I'm saying, because these are the things which affect the things like energy. People have talked about the structural integrity, storage effects, hazard classification. So these are the areas where we can, even our persons can think of the investment or something like that. And these are the broad, I think you can say classification solid propellant. So some of the things are in private we are making, some of the things still we are in government sector only we are making. So these are the some photographs of the existing propellant technology already developed, extruded double base, then composite propellant, nowadays it's workhorse, so that we are using everywhere. So now we have matured to that, now new binder has come. These are the some grain configuration required, how complicated these are. Some, when we talk about the propellant, some of the other additive technologies also, additional technologies. These are the igniters and insulation. These areas also, I think we need, I think, to encourage the industries to put up the plant and that. And these are the some processing equipment. When talk about the technology, because some has to make this equipments also. So there also we need partners. Now I am coming to the what Atmanirbharta is, the last two slides are there. This ingredient, whatever is there, I think we can say all are indigenous only. Maximum 99% are indigenous. Only thing we don't have the manufacturing plant what required today's requirement. Because now we are in the production stage. Everywhere is production is required. Everybody is talking about the life extension and production. So we need partners who can produce the ingredient major means quantity. Then processing equipment, most of the equipments are indigenous. Only in few cases, one or two equipments are, that is foreign we are purchasing. So that can be manufactured here. Although the companies those are making are very few. Then processing technology is 100% here only, are indigenized. Characterization instruments like equipment, some lab equipment, of course, some of the standard equipments that we are purchasing from outside, but specific for the propellant or explosive, all are indigenous only. Only I am coming to the last point is propellant production plant in India only 6 number. 3 is private and 3 is government. We need persons so those can invest and they can put up the plant. HEMRL as a direct DRDO, I think now objective is there. We can set up the plant for the public and this private. Like we have taken the project for the BDL. Now we are putting up the plant for them also. Already people have explained we are, I think, doing and giving technical support for the TOTs, life extension, refurbishment of this, range extension. Now the last point also we have taken up that environment friendly disposal of the propellant explosive. My point was, I think I will exceed another 30 seconds. When yesterday I was talking to some foreign company, they are setting up the plant. So then we told that I just told you that we are setting a plant in BDL around 130, 150, 140 crore. So he told, how come you can set up the plant in 140 crore? I'm not talking about the land cost. But the thing is that now India is in that position. We can set up the plant, but generally foreign vendors, they are asking for 600 crore, 700 crore. We can set up the plant. Another thing, my request to the industries and academia, industries, they should not think about the total plant. They can, why I have shown all the steps. They can take one of the steps. They can put up that plant for that. So that investment will be only 20 crore, 30 crore only. So these type of things are required. When more and more persons will come, then our knowledge base will increase and the human resource thing also will increase. So that is only my request is that don't think it's a big challenge, 100, 200 crore is required. Even the 30, 50 crore also you can put up part of the things. You can, like only integration you can do it. Something like only characterization you can do it. So these are the requests. Thanks for providing me opportunity to give this talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for an informative talk on missile propellants and the opportunities which are existing in this field for our industry partners. Finally, our last panelist with us is Ms. Kriti Upadhyay, founder, Indo-US Tech Council think tank and Vice President Strategic Advisory at C2C America. She is think tank focused on accelerating US-India defense technology and aerospace collaboration, innovation, and investments. Based on what you have heard today, Ms. Kriti, we are interested to hear a think tank's perspective towards pole vaulting this requirement of armament sustenance for the armed forces. Over to you, Kriti.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you to the Indian Navy and each and every organizer here who's ensured this esteemed panel. One thing that often keeps me up at night is how do we make India truly rise to its potential of being a Vishwaguru and being a force for good in the world. And I'm happy as an Indian citizen living in the United States that a change is palpable. More innovations are happening and they're being propelled by private and industries at home. India has always excelled at bringing in the most cutting-edge technologies from around the world, tailoring them to our needs, and then ensuring a very lifelong cycle for them. This was the Atmanirbharta of the past. The Atmanirbharta of the future is where many of these technological developments happen at home in the Indian soil, and the life cycle management and everything is done in-house, and the innovations are happening in-house. The missile life cycle and refurbishment policy about which we're talking today truly leverages India's potential of providing services and running cost-efficient but world-class defense forces and supporting equipment. Recent geopolitical developments, if anything, have really underscored the necessity, the urgent need to bring a lot of this life cycle management in-house and in the domestic fold. If anything, we now know the need to not only diversify our supply chains, but to bring in a lot of components, ammunitions, and life cycle management in-house. I also think that a mature life cycle management ecosystem within the country is not only good for us at home, but can really open new opportunities abroad. Now, why do I say this? Because there are a lot of countries very similar to ours, developing countries with same issues, where we can really add a price point and provide cost-efficient services and life cycle management. Further, as Captain Harmeet was saying, talking about developed countries and the US, where I'm living, they also have a refurbishment policy. Life cycle management is as critical there. You know, defense costs are really ratcheting up right now. And just imagine the cost efficiency that India can provide if we start taking in some of these services. So we know that the policy is timely, but how do we really make this work? As panelists have pointed out, infrastructure is going to be key. And it's so great to hear that not only does the policy mention this, but Commodore Mishra from BDL is happy to do all the hand-holding, provide resources, the technical know-how, and TOT that's going to be so critical for providing a level playing field so that even the private companies can come in and venture into this sector. ISRO is doing great work in transferring TOT completely to the private sector. I think those are some things, you know, that we can also, BDL perhaps can consider if it makes sense for them. Secondly, I think that demand is going to be a driver. You know, you already, with government being the only, customer, it always becomes difficult for the private sector. You know, is this going to be commercially viable for me if I venture in? So the policy calls about aggregating tri-services demand, and that's great. But humbly, I think we need to take this a step further. We really need to think about capturing those global markets. And here, India can really leverage its recent ascent on the global stage to not only open new avenues for ourselves, but to provide a resilient, a democratized, and a safe supply chain of services for the world. And since, again, I focus on US-India ties, I'll touch upon some of the things that, you know, we can bat for in the US. So the US has something called DFARS, which allows about 26 countries now to provide supplies to the DoD. Now think about this. If India could be the 27th country, boom, a new market opens up for us, and we're really emboldening the innovation ecosystem and the capabilities of a good partner. Similarly, a lot of export controls have been relaxed in the past 1 decade, And there's something called the Validated End User Program, where India and China are the only two countries that are allowed to this sort of licensing free pass. And many of these things can, over time, as we partner, like the panelists were saying, can also bring in design and TOT know-how within India. And you will be shocked to know that there are 11 Chinese companies as validated end users and only one Indian company. Just for those who are curious, it's GE India. So now these are things we really need to be batting for. We also need to show that India's partnership with India can be a force for good for our partners. When we're talking about the next frontiers, I'll just take 1 minute more. When we're talking about next frontiers like markets in LATAM, Africa, to leverage them for our developed countries and Western partners, it's going to be critical to partner with India. And then I also want to reiterate what the Honorable Prime Minister said in the Swabalamban Summit last year in July. There has to be a change in mindset. We ourselves at home need to, to hold in higher regard the products and services that we provide, the things coming out of the private sector, and really market them abroad. I mean, we've had some great PR programs. Think about Incredible India, think about Startup India, think about God's Own Country. Why can't we have a PR program that really pushes our capabilities? Of course, the best advertisement for any product is really its service at home, and BrahMos is a great example for that. Indian firms also need to actively woo partners, both large and mid-size alike, outside in foreign markets. And to that end, I'm really proud that the Indus Tech Council is doing some really good work in bringing bridges between the innovation ecosystems of the United States and India. I'd like to end by saying that this is a really exciting time for India and the defense innovation ecosystem. And I think that we not only can get Atmanirbharta in due time in Aero Armament Sustenance, but really become a global force for good and a major defense player. And in this, if there's something that can really accelerate this process, is what I like to call the Trishul of Atmanirbharta. End user concern, it has to make sense to the Javans, to the officers who are really using this. Commercial viability, because if you want private sector to come in, it has to make sense for them, right? And finally, technological advancement. It has to be only the most cutting edge technology. So for that, back to some more sleepless nights and a lot of hard work. Jai Hind.
For an engaging talk. Well, that was indeed a thought-provoking session of discussion. And with this, we come to an end of our discussion. And now we move to Q&A session. We are running short of time, but still we can manage to take one question from the audience. I'll request the audience to introduce before asking the question. I think we have met the objective. There is no question, and audience has well understood the concept of life extension and the challenges, and ready to work towards this in collaboration with the services. May I now request Vice Admiral S.N. Ghormade, the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff, on dais for delivering closing remarks. Vice Admiral S.N. Ghormade.
Distinguished panelists for this wonderful discussion, and all the distinguished officers and in the audience. It's a matter of great honor and privilege for me to deliver the closing remarks for this important discussion because innovation and indigenization are the key result areas for our nation and the armed forces. And it is an imperative now for our operational efficiency and combat readiness. So, whilst we have been progressing Atmanirbharta, one of the most important things which in the Navy we had few discussions about a year back, and we came to one conclusion that if you have to succeed and you have to do things in a different manner, then you have to do things differently. And it can't be business as usual. And that's the most important part, I think, which came out in today's discussion, that we need to nurture the domestic industry. We need to be totally Atmanirbhar, and for that, you just can't continue having the same system of that one company will only do the life extension. It has to be extended much more beyond. And whilst lots of good words of combined effort, yes, that is required, collaboration is required, but I think we have to have partnership. There has to be partnership between the public sector, DRDO, armed forces, and the industry. Unless we deal each other as partners, and we are partners for success, we are not going to achieve. We need to have a common view that it is India who will win, not one of us who will win. Unless we make that combined effort and partnership value, we will not do. I think the DJNI presentation initially brought out all the issues very clearly and succinctly. The DJNI, when he spoke himself, he also brought whatever achievements we have had in the years is just because of combined efforts. There was combined effort and the 4 decades of experience which the Navy has got is only because of working together with the DRDO, with various labs of DRDO, with various companies, and trying to work with the OEMs and get some output out of that. We just can't continue to depend on OEMs because the OEMs will not give you the technology. They will retain something with them. They will keep, which you have to go back to them. And that's what we have been struggling for years. And therefore, like in the last, you had brought out in the last about, is that you have to develop it yourself. I think there is no way that Atmanirbharta is there. I think the BrahMos, he brought out about challenges in life extension. While there may be challenges, but unless we look at it that we will do it, and whether it is adversity that we want to fight against, we will have to put that whole of nation effort. And there's nothing we can achieve without having that whole of nation effort. And this policy which was brought out in August 22, from 2003, I think there was enough opportunity given from 2003 to develop a capability. But in 2022, why did we bring this policy? Because that was not working as well. And we need to understand that, and that landmark policy needs to be taken forward. So we have lots of experience available in the country. We need to share it. We need to, there is a problem about capacity. We are not able to meet the life extension of all our equipment because there's large number of weapons which need life extension, and we are not able to keep up with that pace. And therefore, that is where the private industry comes in very well. So, like the Associate Director of HEMRL brought out very clearly that it can come in small amounts. That means we don't have to go the whole log. Private industry does not have to go the whole log. You can look at small parts, but unless you work together, unless you share, unless you be transparent to each other, unless you work together, just having one meeting will not do. It will be a constant sharing of information and making that everybody succeeds. And the success will be seen by the complete output. And that will only be received by the final outcome that we are fully Atmanirbhar in making the ammunition here and maintaining it. Till the time we are dependent on the other things, we need to look at how we get the technical know-how, how we use the opportunity of this government policy of Atmanirbharta, because we faced difficulty in last 2 years when we totally stopped procurements from abroad. But over the period in last 1 year, all the OEMs have come around, and first they start talking about make in India, then they want to sell their item. Otherwise, earlier they just wanted to sell their items. They couldn't be bothered whether India can make it or not. Now it's the other way around. And therefore, I think we need to look at. I think the perspective which ACS weapons brought out is very important. There's a lot we can do together. All the three services can work together, and wherever we have worked together, we have only achieved. Whether it was the 1971 war, we had a victory because all of us worked together in one aim of winning. When it was COVID, the whole nation came together. And similarly, if you want to do Atmanirbharta, unless it is a whole of nation effort, which will start from the academia, the industry, and the armed forces, and the private industry, all working together towards one goal, truly we will have the cutting edge technologies with us, we will have Atmanirbharta at home, and there is enough demand. Whilst there's services demand, there's enough in the export market. And that is where we need to capture. We not only do make in India, but make for the world. So I'd like to end by saying that it is India's moment now. If we don't grab this moment where we are coming together, we have all the opportunities, the government policies are supporting, the private industry is coming of age, the industry, the DRDO, the public sectors are ready to share their information. If we work together, we will surely win. Thank you.
So may I now request the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff to present seminar's memento to our esteemed panelists as a token of our appreciation. Shri Atul Dinkar Rane. Shri K.S.C. Iyer. Rear Admiral Sanjay Mishra, retired. Rear Admiral Brajesh Vashishta. Air Vice Marshal V. Rajshekhar. Shri Arvind Kumar. Miss Kriti Upadhyay. May I now request the dignitaries on the dais to come forward for a group photograph. With this, we have come to the end of the seminar. I thank each and every one of you for your wholehearted participation. Thank you. Shano Varna, Jai Hind. I would request the dignitaries to join us for a tea in the lounge areas.